edition of On Tap presented by FCSI the Americas. I'm Wade Kaler, Executive Director. On Tap this week, I am excited because I get to meet another member of FCSI that I'm unfamiliar with. So this is all brand new for me, which is the most exciting part of doing this show. This member graduated from Johnson and Wales with a degree in baking and pastry arts, working in numerous food service operations before becoming a consultant. Please welcome from the Seattle office of Next Step Design, Mr. Elijah Davis. Hi, Elijah. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Wade. Good to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, I love getting to know new members, or not necessarily just new members, but all members that I'm not familiar with. So this is the most fun I get to have with these shows. Um, to get started with, it's the age-old question. And tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got your start, and kind of what your specialties or segments are that you work for specifically within Next Step.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. So, as you kind of preempted, I'm Elijah, and I did go to culinary school, but don't hold that against me. Uh, I started off in the industry back when I was 15, back in Gainesville, Georgia, which is where I grew up.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
and I remember my mom one summer saying, gosh, you need to get a job, because I think she was just tired of dealing with me. And so there I am out skateboarding during the summer, walk into a local restaurant with skateboard, gross as anything, and just walked in, said, "Hey, can I wash dishes for you?" Uh, the owner, Tim, I think he just needed somebody for the weekend. And he said, "Yeah, come on in." And that's the beginning of my food service career, is working
Nice.
at Two Dog Cafe in Gainesville. And Tim, the owner, kind of took me underneath his wing. Of He had been in the industry for years, owning the restaurant.
Okay.
Showed me what hard work was really like, what the
Yeah.
expectations were of working in a kitchen. Uh, and so that was kind of my springboard, and deciding to formalize the education, going to Johnson and Wales. Uh, I did the baking and pastry path,
Yeah.
mostly because I was curious about bread. We made our own bread where I got my first job, uh, and it was just a curiosity to me of how does that bread work. I can see how a lot of the other things work, but I needed that kind of formalized education of how bread worked, how the leaveners worked, all
Yeah.
the science of it, if you will.
Okay.
And from there, really just worked around in the industry for a number of years, in bakeries. Had some opportunities to work in fine dining that were very cool. Uh, Moved around in the South from Charleston, South Carolina, to Athens,
Okay.
Georgia. Uh, then decided I'm going to go back to school, because who doesn't want to be more in debt? And went back to a local college, did a undergraduate in business, and then
Okay.
from there moved to Atlanta and got a job working full time at a bakery, but then part time I started working for MOFSI. Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
and so MOFSI, for those that don't know, is the trade association between the reps and the factories, kind of making those connections. Their corporate office is in Atlanta.
Yep.
And so I just applied. And so I was working all night at a bakery, going direct to MOFSI the next day. Uh, and doing all sorts of random marketing, data entry, whatever Allison, who leads MOFSI, whatever Allison needed, I was helping her out, until one day she finally uh, comes back to where I sat and said, "Elijah, what are you doing? What do you want to do? I love having you here, but what do you want to do?" And shared with her kind of my ideas of what I wanted. My sister lived in Portland, Oregon at the time, and said, so I told Allison, I'm like, I don't know, I think it'd be cool to live in the Pacific Northwest. Well, she took it upon herself to introduce me to some rep firms in Seattle area. Uh, the GFR, who has been dissolved at this point, uh, moved from Atlanta to Seattle to do corporate chef kind of inside sales support for GFR. And that was my first break outside of working behind the line, so to speak,
Okay.
and working
Yeah.
more in the industry. And so I value that opportunity to working as a representative, working with the factory. Uh, and I did that for about 3 years of pretty typical inside sales work, doing auto quotes
Yeah.
based stuff, doing training on combi ovens, uh, and then we had the slight market crash, and that's when I jumped over to another company called Restaurant Design and Sales, and it's a small design build firm. Uh,
Okay.
and Fred Lillian there gave me a great opportunity to learn from him, all of his practices. And so uh, that gave me experiences to purchasing the equipment and designing
Hmm.
the space. Uh, and that was my next springboard into working for Next Step Design. Uh,
Nice.
yeah, they wanted to expand to more of a West Coast presence and started engaging a few folks in the Seattle market to come on board, and got to speak with our principal, Russell Stillwell, and he apparently liked what I said because he gave me a job. And
Yeah.
that's in a brief little nutshell, that's how I got to where I am. Very
Well,
proud of.
not too many
Uh,
people come through MOFSI to get to this point, so you're a very unique story with that. And
yeah, yeah,
yeah, Allison's a great friend, a great colleague. I've known Allison for many, many, many years now.
yeah,
Obviously, being in the same role as her for
sure.
FCSI. So props to Allison for actually finding out what you really wanted to do versus what you were doing at the time. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
as much as it pains me to say, that's a sign of a good leader, and uh and that means I have to give her the credit for it, which I'm happy to do so, but it's still not easy for me to do so because I love to give her so much of a hard time usually. So well,
Well,
so then now that you're with
she's
Next
great.
Step,
Yeah.
what tell me a little bit about what your role is with Next Step and what you kind of specialize in for the client or the company itself.
Yeah, so I came on board as a assistant project manager, helping there was already a regional in the space, uh,
Okay.
and so I came on board to help out Jean Michel. Uh,
Hmm.
and doing that, after a couple of years, it became our team was growing, which is a good problem to have. We
Yeah.
brought in more support, so I was able to move into a project manager role, which is now what my role is,
Yeah.
uh, and worked more closely with Jean Michel as well as other leadership at Next Step Design.
Okay.
Uh, and so that was a couple of years ago, and while some players have changed at Next Step Design, I've
Mm.
stayed the constant Seattle presence out here as
Okay.
project manager. For the most part, a lot of my projects previously did a lot of B&I work here in Seattle. That we have a few small software companies in our region
Yeah.
that I've had an opportunity to work with on some of those. And also did a number of hotels,
Okay.
usually larger hotels like Mandarin Orientals, where it's large complexes, or
Yeah.
one and only, again, large complexes.
Sure.
Uh, and so a lot of my work has transferred less from B&I, more from into hotel and independent operator restaurants
Okay.
is what I'm currently working on right now.
And what so far in your career has been your favorite project you've worked on?
My favorite project, uh, well, let's see. Expedia is probably the first one that comes to mind.
Okay.
Expedia is a travel company, of course,
Yep.
for those that may not know. And their corporate headquarters is located in downtown Seattle. They
Okay.
renovated an old building, which of course comes with its own challenges of we don't just get to poke holes in the slab wherever we want. We have
Right.
to adapt, uh, which is fine. But it was one of my first largest projects that I was involved from inception to complete fruition. Even to
Yeah.
this day, it still comes up every now and then of what's going on with that. We had a number of cool systems on there. We had a tray conveyor from AeroWorks that did a few horizontal and vertical runs to go from level one, where the servery was, to downstairs in the basement to where the scullery was.
Oh wow.
Uh, and so I recall discussing the system with AeroWorks and thinking, I don't know, man, this seems pretty complicated. They obviously had no beef with it.
Yeah.
And that's what they do every day. And lo and behold, they were 100% right. The system works as intended. There's some really cool three-dimensional views that we made to so that you can see the run inside the building uh,
Oh
as it
cool.
accumulates downstairs. It was one of the other things that really stood out to me on that was there's a you may be familiar with Reddit, which is
Hmm.
a online community. There's a
Yep.
subreddit called Kitchen Confidential,
Hmm.
which is intended for professional chefs, professional people in the cooking industry. One day, I happened to be looking on there and had a picture of somebody that their post was essentially just started in a brand new kitchen. Everybody, take a look at this new kitchen, and there are pictures of this kitchen, and everybody, the entire subreddit community was, oh, this is cool, look how cool this is, I wish I had that. I'm looking at it like, you know what, I think I recognize that. Looked more, and lo and behold, it was my Expedia project. uh,
Very cool.
and what resonated to me was when architects, clients, people, they're coming and they may say, oh, that's a great job, we really liked it. That's great, and I love hearing that. But to hear it from a community of chefs that I identify with, that
Yeah.
was totally, I didn't ask them for that. I just happened to see their compliments on the work. Uh, to me, that was kind of the feather in the cap of, all right,
Absolutely.
we did this project right, because all of these people appreciate all the work that we did.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That makes it all the worthwhile. You know you've done
Yeah,
something right when people brag about it. So
exactly,
that's
exactly.
it's a great thing. So you taken the route from school to working in bakeries and then working in design build and then now next step. How long did it take you as a consultant before you felt like you were proficient at it or it became something you felt comfortable in with learning everything in the industry?
uh, I think myself and a lot of people struggle with imposter syndrome, right? Where
Hmm.
I am a consultant, but it's hard for me to not see the 15-year-old Elijah with a skateboard and chain wallet. That's how I perceive myself. So it's hard for me to think of, oh, these people are coming to me for my professional opinion. why would they do that? Do they not know what, and so it's something that I still, and struggle might not be the right word, but it is something I'm getting used to, and realizing that people have hired me for my professional opinion. Uh,
Yeah,
and all of that that brought me here, that's what people want to hear. And so it's
absolutely.
just
Yeah,
been within the last couple years that I'm getting comfortable and thinking, well, client, you brought me in on board because you want a professional opinion. I'm going to tell
right,
you what that is.
right,
Whether you want to hear that or not is a different story, but I will tell you what I think the best solution is.
right.
And so it is, some areas I'm much more comfortable discussing.
Yeah,
Obviously, bakeries, right?
of
We have a
course.
bake shop. Oh, you want me to talk to your pastry chef or baker? I'm more than happy to get into the granular details of how you're working with your starter, where that's going. Uh,
Yeah,
you know, just I'm not as comfortable, but still very comfortable in the kitchens. W-
sure.
I'm less comfortable when it comes to bars, uh,
Okay,
and that's just, I don't drink that often because I have stomach stuff,
okay.
and so bars have always been kind of a gray area for me that I haven't spent a lot of time studying.
Yeah,
And so I'm still working on that. Had a call this morning to review bar layouts with a client, and they seemed pretty convinced I knew what I was talking about. So
that's
I
good.
think at this point I have to now
It
believe it myself, right?
it's
To
a fake
believe
it till you make it syndrome.
exactly. You get it. You get it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I
Uh,
see in your office. I have to ask you a little bit about where we're going a little bit in the
oh
future, possibly, and that is, I see you've got a virtual reality headset
yes.
in there charging. One, do you use that for food service at all right now? And yes or no, either way, do you see it playing a role in future design for food service consultants?
Uh, I see it. It can be used. And Next Step does have virtual reality capability. We do all the, we have most of our projects are all now 100% in Revit. We've
Mhm.
purchased VR headsets. I still see it as somewhat as a gimmick. That
Okay.
it's cool. It's cool to talk
Yeah.
about. Uh, but it really requires somebody that has used virtual reality before. So I
Right. I
couldn't
agree.
give it to my dad and be like, "Dad, why don't you walk around this project?" It just would not be worth anybody's time.
Yeah, I
Uh,
agree. We're not quite there to commercialization yet. I agree.
yeah, yeah. I've seen some. What is it? At an architect's office, the client came in for a big hoot nanny meeting, and they had the VR there for the client. And it was kind of cool for them to be able to walk around, but it was very much a uh, a bird's eye view project. They were more looking
Right.
at general, how does the space feel versus,
Right.
oh, this hand sink, gosh, if we could move that over 8 inches, that
Right.
solves a lot of stuff.
Right.
So like I think it's right now it's still gimmicky. We're just not there where it's easy for anybody to just pick up and use.
I think where people are, or not, I say a segment, I suppose, it probably has the best use of it right now because they do the same thing. I don't want to say over and over and over again, but the chain restaurants, the fast food restaurants, I know they've gotten into it better, but they're also one of those where, when you're a franchisee, you get to come in and choose what, three, four, five models, so you
Yeah.
only have to build that model once, and it's not like you guys that are designing 10 models a week of different models. So I can see where it's got a ways to go. I think potentially it could catch up someday, but we're not quite there yet. So I completely agree. So again, being a little more observant, a couple things. I still see a skateboard on that wall. So
Yeah.
I have to ask, are you still the the skater with the Vans and the chain wallet hanging out, or is that kind of by the wayside at this point?
I still do have my skateboard. My wife has frowned down upon the chain wallet as much as I think it's cool, and I'll point it out on other people, and she'll just give me that look of like, "Don't think you're cool because you're not." Uh,
Yeah.
I have been known to. I was running late for a meeting with BSI, uh, and they were a couple blocks down the street from me. Usually, I would walk, but they saw me skateboarding up. I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm late, I'm late." Am I out hitting tricks and rails like I was when I was 15? Not at all, not at
Yeah.
all.
Completely
But it's still
understand on
fun to
that.
play around.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Obviously, you're also a fan of Dune,
What
based on the
what gave
wall.
you that impression?
Yeah. So I one of my esteemed I'm not very familiar, to be honest with you, but one of my colleagues here is a big fan as well. So I'm supposed to ask, do you have a favorite spice?
A favorite spice? Uh, Besides the spice melange that we have in Dune, uh, I think my sister-in-law asked me this exact same question a couple of years ago, and part of me just wanted to be a smartass back to her. So I will repeat the same
Oh, I
comment
love
so
it.
that people uh, realize that I am pretty much smartass. I'm gonna say marijuana, probably my favorite
There you go.
spice. Legal state here in what state of Washington.
Yeah,
As
absolutely.
for cooking, I like thyme is probably something that I would use in most dishes, uh, sparingly. Uh,
Yeah,
that's the real answer. The smart ass
very good.
answer, marijuana.
I
Uh,
love it. I love it. Well, I don't want to end the formal questions on that, so I've got one more for you, and that is, what part of food service consulting now do you find the most rewarding? Like, what part of the
yeah,
job is the most rewarding for you?
the I'm gonna think the whenever you're working on a new layout of a project, you're kind of given the outline of don't go outside these boundaries and deal with all these things that are inside the space. It's overwhelming, right?
Right.
Because everything can fit in so many places, uh, and there's not necessarily a single best way, uh, but it's a puzzle. And
Sure.
you, at least my process is kind of throwing shit everywhere and seeing what sticks, deleting what doesn't stick, and kind of
Yep.
replicating that until it all seems to stick. And then I'll do another layout to prove whether that one was good or if I just, because sometimes I'll just say, oh, well, I did one and that's the
Yeah.
one. And I find it helpful to be like, now I have to do something that's completely opposite of that to
Yeah.
challenge my layout. Uh, and it is at a certain point, you gain momentum and you're like,
Sure.
"Oh, I've got this figured out now." Uh, that feeling of I've solved this case, I've cracked the case of fitting all the stuff in there that they want. Uh,
Yeah.
that's probably the one of the funnest things about my position.
Very good.
The other thing is talking with operators that get excited about their kitchens. Some operators are less involved than others. Uh,
Yeah.
where some operators are very granular and oh, we actually like the model number, the dash LX versus the dash. Oh, cool. And I
Yeah.
like those kind of clients because they're getting excited about the space. They're actually engaging in it, thinking how they're going to
Right.
work in it, and that's when it starts to be fun
Exactly.
because everybody's uh, everybody's engaging on it.
Right.
Uh, a lot of
Anytime you
people
work with
ask
somebody that's
me
got passion, it makes it a lot more fun for everybody. You get wrapped up in their
exactly.
passion.
Uh, from time to time, people ask me if I still miss working in the kitchens. And there are some things I don't miss. The hours were terrible, right?
Right.
The pay's not amazing. The but one thing I do miss is the teamwork of everybody getting excited during service and just crushing all the
Yeah.
tickets that come in. And so when I am engaging with a client that really wants to dig into that granular detail, it elicits some of those kind of feelings of, oh, we're getting into the groove now as a team,
Yeah.
and we're going to
Yeah.
crush this project. Uh,
Great.
that's that's pretty great.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's all the formal questions I've got for you today, Elijah. But before we get going, I always want to throw in some extra fun questions. So I've got a group of would you rather questions we'll get through. Give me 1 second. I've got to clear my throat. I've been feeling it for a while and I didn't want to interrupt. But before I start, I'm going to.
No worries.
All right. Sorry about that. So I'll pause for a second, then I'll just jump into the first question. So the first question I've got for you is, would you rather buy 10 things you don't need every time you go shopping, or always forget the one thing that you do need every time you go shopping?
Oh, that's easy. Always forget the one thing I do need.
Okay,
I don't have
perfect.
space, physically space where I live for 10 extra things.
Every
So it's
time,
always
absolutely.
a matter of let's not get so many things because then I'm just stacking it up on the sides of the walls.
Perfect. Would you rather have a personal housekeeper or a personal chef?
Housekeeper.
Okay.
Uh, I'm happy to do the cooking myself. I do most of it for our family.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to take that away from me because I would be in there, kind of micromanaging them anyways.
Well, and if you got the
Uh,
housekeeper, you can cook and then you don't have to clean. So then you've got the best
yeah,
of both
it's the
worlds.
best
There
of
you
both
go.
worlds.
Exactly. Would you rather be an extra in an Oscar winning movie or the lead actor in a box office bomb?
uh, an extra. Say that again.
An extra in an Oscar winning movie or the lead in a box office bomb?
I'm gonna say lead in a box
Okay.
office bomb. I'd rather have a nice paycheck that would give me the opportunity to be an extra in some other movie. So yeah, box office bomb lead. I'm star
Perfect.
material, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. With your chain wallet and your
You-
skateboard, you're good to go.
See, you get it.
Would you rather watch nothing but Hallmark Christmas movies or nothing but horror movies for the rest of your
Oh,
life?
horror movies, 100%. Uh,
Perfect.
Especially if it's an '80s horror movie. That's
Oh,
the
I, g-
sweet spot.
I agree. I agree. I'm a kid of the '80s. I would agree with that. They made
Yep.
some good horror movies in the '80s. Would you rather have a pause or a rewind button in your life?
Pause.
Smart. Would you rather win $25,000 yourself or have your best friend win $100,000?
I'd rather see my best friend have $100,000. Uh, I still have plenty of money to eat, so I don't need the $25,000, and uh, that'd be cool for him. Then he could get
Perfect.
me 25 and still keep
The-
75, and we're
you're the
all
first
happy
person that
too.
said you're the first person that said that, and that's the thing I thought of when I wrote the question was, what if my friend just gives me the 25 to the 100,000 then?
Yeah.
Would you rather be in a zombie apocalypse or a robot apocalypse?
Ooh, uh, I'm gonna say zombie apocalypse because robots are a lot harder to kill.
Yes, I agree. And they get smarter as you go.
Yeah, yeah. I'd like
So
to think
I
zombies just deteriorate over time.
you would hope so.
You're
That's for
right.
sure. Would you rather give up your cell phone for a month or give up bathing for a month?
I'll give up my cell phone for a month.
Okay. Okay. Nobody's given up bathing. I'm shocked so far.
Yeah. What's up with that?
Would you rather be able to speak any language or be able to communicate with animals?
I'd rather be able to communicate with animals. Uh,
Okay,
Sweet movie Beastmaster from the '80s.
there you
I just
go.
want to be like that guy and be able to talk to animals.
Would you rather always have an annoying song stuck in your head or always have an itch that you can't reach?
Ooh, that's a tough one, man. Throwing out the hard balls here. We'll go with having annoying song stuck in my head.
Okay. Would you rather read the book or watch the movie?
Read the book.
I figured that was going to be what you said based on would you rather have your own theme park or your own zoo?
I think my own theme park. I don't know that I'd want to have to do the upkeep on a zoo.
I somebody else mentioned that and I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The upkeep on a zoo is a lot more than the upkeep on a theme park.
Yeah.
Would you rather be compelled to high five everyone you meet or be compelled to give a wedgie to anyone in a green shirt?
High five everyone I meet.
Okay. Nobody's giving wedgies out anymore. I don't know. Would you rather have a completely automated home or a self-driving car?
Automated home.
Okay. And last but not least, would you rather be able to go to any theme park in the world for free for the rest of your life or eat for free at any drive-through restaurant for the rest of your life?
I'll eat for free.
Eat for
I
free at the
need to eat.
drive-through.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect. Well,
Uh,
that's all I've got for you today, Elijah. But before we go, tell us a little bit about more where people can find out more about you and more about Next Step.
uh, we have an online presence, nextstepdesign.com. Tell you all sorts about our company, all sorts of sweet pictures of previous projects, a little bio about yours truly as well. Uh, Me personally, I'm on the LinkedIn, I'm on the Facebook, uh, and I don't think I'm on the MySpace or Friendster anymore. But we could try that, see if that works.
That wraps up this edition of On Tap presented by FCSI the Americas. A huge thank you to Elijah Davis for joining us today. Be sure to like and subscribe to whatever platform you use. And as always, cheers.